You're listening to the Just Go Bike podcast. We're all about the culture of bicycling just for the fun of it. Your host, Kathy Murphy from the Morphology podcast and Andrea Parrott from ParrotTalk are joined by a wide variety of guests each week that delve into the social side of cycling. With tales from RAGBRAI Nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now, here are your hosts, Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
And that's me.
Hey, AP.
Hi, Murph.
Here we are together in ParrotTalk Studios, recording audio and video again. Yay! So what's new?
Well, besides the fact that we're recording in our very own studio,
Yes.
again, the logo has been announced for RAGBRAI 52.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think?
I saw it on Facebook Live the other night. I wasn't here for it, but I was pretty excited. The flight theme is so cool. Like, I can already envision what the jersey's going to look like, or maybe you already have it.
We do.
Ooh!
Yep.
It's really cool, and I wonder, like probably everyone out there listening, if there are some hidden messages as to the route. I mean, there's got to be.
Well, I don't know. They don't tell me the route, but I will say there's been a bunch of theories on social about what it is. So
Yeah.
in the background of the logo, there are, if you haven't seen the logo, it is a take flight theme, sort of centered around the fact that it's RAGBRAI 52 and we have a B-52 airplane in the logo. We're about to put out a whole behind the scenes on the logo, so
Ooh,
stay
okay.
tuned for that. But anyway, in the background, there's like a little flight path of the airplane, and people think that that is the actual route.
Including me.
That is a
I
theory.
thought that,
Yep.
yes.
The other theory would be that there's sort of a flagpole with a big flag that says RAGBRAI, and the flagpole is noting the end town. So that's a theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then an additional theory is that since it's an airplane theme, then we'll be going through different Air Force or like airplane bases or
Okay.
airports throughout the state.
I also thought that.
So that
Yep.
one is on the table as well.
Okay.
And who's to say?
We'll find out in a couple months, I guess.
Yeah, we'll find out in January. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, before we go on, do you normally wear a KB Toys name tag?
no, I do not. It is Halloween or Halloween week, and so I will wear a costume every day this week. And so, as you can see, I'm a fun expert this week. Or if you have to listen if you're not watching the video.
Oh, yeah.
podcast.
Your name tag says KB Toys Fun Expert, and it also has a price tag on it. So you are worth
99 cents.
Okay.
Yep. And don't look at it too close because my SKU number is sensitive personal information. I've never actually noticed that since I was 16.
Okay.
But when I was 16, I worked at KB Toys and in the Coral Ridge Mall in Coralville, which at the time was one of the biggest malls in the whole U.S.
Wow. Okay.
And we think maybe we actually worked at the mall at the same time.
Yeah, I worked at Old Navy at the time. You worked at KB Toys.
Yeah. Yep.
I walked by and was annoyed by there was like a square thing with animals that were bouncing around, battery operated, like making lots of noise.
Yeah, those little yippy little dogs.
Yeah,
and like
they
the
jump and
the
do
hamsters
circles
that would dance, and like James Brown that would sing.
Yeah.
And like it was obnoxious, but it was an awesome job. Probably my favorite toy that we had there was any of the RC cars because when the mall was closed, we would open them up and drive them through the hallway.
Whoa, that would be
Yeah,
fun.
so there you go. That was the history behind my outfit. Technically, I should be wearing a blue polo, but I no longer have a blue polo. So
Okay.
this is what you're going to get. I'm wearing a blue Oxford shirt.
Okay.
So, all
and
right.
I think it's important to point out that Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and I am not in a costume because I didn't know you were wearing a costume until I was maybe an hour from Des Moines, from here at RAGBRAI headquarters, and I, kind of casually was like, "Oh, AP, I'm not wearing my Just Go Bike shirt," and then you sprung it on me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's okay. I'm wearing a costume, and you're. I think I got in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, was I supposed to turn around and go back?
I'm kind of surprised you didn't have one in your car.
Maybe I do. Oh my gosh, yeah. Anyway, I love it. You probably were a super fun KB Toys fun expert when you were there.
Oh, I have all sorts of different stories that are not appropriate for the radio.
All right, love it. Okay, so something else that's very cool, especially if you watch the live stream on Friday, here at RAGBRAI HQ, Herky has arrived.
That's right. We have a full-size Herky on Parade statue here at RAGBRAI HQ, and it does have a collage of different RAGBRAI photos all over the Herky, so that's the design of our Herky, and it does have yours truly and Murph truly on it.
Yours truly and yours truly.
Yeah.
Ours truly?
Yeah, ours truly on it. It's pretty cool, and you can see pictures of it on our social media if you care to look it up in the RAGBRAI social media, I mean.
Yep.
And yeah, we just, they had Herky on Parade. I believe it was the third iteration of the Herkies that they've had in Iowa City. And this is our second RAGBRAI Herky. And it was just really cool to have one. So somehow Matt Phippen obtained it. I think he had to bid on it, but I'm not exactly certain. So, yeah. So, but long story short, he lives here now.
Yes, I was going to ask, is he going to live here now?
This is Herky's house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Herky is the mascot for the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. So if you're wondering who Herky is, again, look it up. But it's part of a series called Herky on Parade, I believe.
Yeah, Herky on Parade.
Herky on Parade.
Yep.
So I'm very proud to be on Herky. And there are also gazillions of other photographs. So there's a bunch of people out there that are listening right now that probably are on the Herky and don't know it.
Yeah, I think so. Because there's a lot of photos on that Herky. Sorry, Cyclones. Once you make a really cool cyclone, maybe we'll have it in our office. But
we're both Hawkeye fans,
Yeah.
so that's hard for me to continue out. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so before we get to the actual episode content, here we are on the cusp of Halloween. We've talked about your costume. I want to discuss a snack that I love to receive when I used to go trick-or-treating, and I still eat them today. Okay.
I love talking about snacks.
Okay. Yeah. The topic is the Kit Kat.
Okay.
So.
Give me a break. Not sponsored.
Oh, yeah. # not sponsored. What are your thoughts on the Kit Kat?
I think it's a delightful, crispy, chocolatey snack that I love to snap into pieces.
Yes, I am a big fan. Obviously, that's why I brought it up, especially when they're frozen.
Ooh.
And I have like kind of a routine, once it's frozen, snapping them and getting that crunch factor. It's kind of making my mouth water right now.
I kind of wish we had a Kit Kat here right now.
Do you have a system on how you eat them?
Quickly.
Yeah. You know how they come in like a 4 sticks that are stuck together by chocolate? I've seen people, I don't even know how I'm friends with them, where they eat them just like take a bite, and so they're eating a little bit of all 4.
No.
Instead of
Ew.
snapping.
Barbarians. It's like eating string cheese like from the top down instead of peeling it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I've been traveling a bit, here and there at different airports, different countries. And I've noticed that there is more than just the good old milk chocolate, orangish red packaging Kit Kat. And I have strong feelings about it.
You do? What are you feeling?
Well, I just don't know what to do about these extra flavors, right? Like, how is that going to affect my Kit Kat experience?
Might distract from the thing you love about Kit Kat the most, the chocolate and the crunchiness. I don't know what you love about Kit Kat the most, but like it might be distracting.
Right. Yeah. So I looked it up on the World Wide Web.
Okay.
So there are specific Kit Kat flavors in the U.S., and then there's specific Kit Kat flavors in the rest of the world.
Okay.
So in the U.S., we've got your milk chocolate, my favorite. You've got your dark chocolate, and you've got your white cream. Those are 3 different kinds.
Okay.
I don't know that I've ever seen the dark chocolate or the white cream. Now, maybe I have in the little tiny snack packs.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then there's mint and dark together, mint and dark chocolate.
Okay.
There's birthday cake, which I might want to try that one.
That.
And then there's like seasonal flavors, I guess, like lemon crisp, chocolate frosted donut.
Wow.
Like, shouldn't I just have a piece of lemon cake or an actual donut?
I mean, they kind of went the route of Oreo where they have a bazillion million flavors.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with this. I did research a little bit in case somebody out there is wondering. The reason that there are other flavors in other countries is because at some point, Kit Kat became owned by 2 companies. So there's the Hershey portion and then the Nestle portion. And so each of the companies were like, we're going to do some new flavors. And I think a lot of Americans are like me, and they like the tried and true.
Yeah.
They don't want a chocolate donut Kit Kat. They want a good old milk chocolate Kit Kat.
Of all these different flavors, all this new Kit Kat technology, I just really wish that they would make one that doesn't melt in your jersey pocket.
Ooh.
That's what this person wants.
Then it would have to be like chemicals instead of chocolate.
Well, M&M's did it.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, you're right. Yeah. So anyway, I'm traveling here a little bit angry of the fact that I'm not wearing a costume, but that's my own deal. I stopped at Casey's before coming here to get my caffeine fix. And guess what I found?
Oh my God. It is a milk chocolate mint plus dark chocolate Kit Kat.
Yeah. And not only is it a mint plus dark chocolate Kit Kat, it's a king size.
It's a big Kit Kat.
Yeah. And so I haven't tried it yet. This is going to be my moment where I'm going to try it and I make it hooked, or I might break up with Kit Kat. But
okay, please don't.
I figured we could try it together.
Don't break up with Kit Kat right here. Take it somewhere private.
Okay, so we're going to try it. I'm going to break one and so I don't touch it.
Okay.
So I'll give you a section of it. Ooh, it's an interesting green on the top,
It's like,
chocolate.
It looks like an Andes mint. Like, at what point are we just eating an Andes mint?
Oh, you're right. It
Yeah.
smells delicious. Okay. I'm going to take a bite.
I think it's extremely good.
It's definitely Andes mint, but crunchy.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yep.
Okay. That's
Technology.
good. Wow. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to eat any more right now because I don't want to crunch on the
I don't.
microphone, but I will eat more later.
Well, we have a whole one to eat. Yeah. Okay. So we want to get into today's episode, but first, you have a newspaper sitting next to you, and I think that we should at least give 10 seconds to talk about it.
Yeah. This is an Iowa newspaper whose I won't name because they're not the Des Moines Register, but they were kind enough to do an article about us, and it says 10 Iowa-produced podcasts to check out. And wouldn't you know, one of them is the Just Go Bike podcast.
Just Go Bike.
It's incredible. So it's from an article about the Iowa Podcast Awards, which we won one of. And yeah, they did an article about that. So this article is going straight up into the pod studio as soon as I get a frame for it.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, listeners, for getting us to this point.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, today we have a special episode, and it's called a ParrotTalk. So,
that's right.
And here's the parrot to tell us about it.
It's double special this week because it's not just me squawking at myself. I brought the flock together, and we'll be hearing from the social media team that collects content for you and for all the other RAGBRAI aficionados on RAGBRAI. So I have Murph, myself, Brian Powers, and Kim Sharp-Leba, who are our professional photographers, and then us, your favorite podcasters. But we're all on the episode. We're all talking about what it's like to collect social media and photos along the route on RAGBRAI.
All right. Well, let's get to it.
Well, listeners, this is Andrea, and that's right. This means it's Parrot Talk.
Except
I've got a couple of friends along with me today because who wants to Parrot Talk alone? So I'm here with Murph.
I am so excited to be on a Parrot Talk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is one of the first multi-person Parrot Talks ever. So
I think you're right. Yeah.
But not only that, I have also Kim Sharp-Leba and Brian Powers on the line. Kim, say hi.
Hello.
And Brian, say hi.
Hey, everyone.
Yay. This is kind of like a reunion, isn't it?
That's right, because the four of us consist of the social media team on RAGBRAI, and it's so fun to be all on the same conference call and chatting together. And Murph and I are even in the same room.
Yes, we are. And yes, I won't spill the beans on what you're wearing. We've already talked about that in the banter.
Powers and Kim do not know I'm wearing a Halloween costume right now.
You guys will have to just watch the YouTube video, okay?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so let's just dive right in because I'm so excited to start talking to you guys about, well, just a little bit about what it's like to work RAGBRAI. We have a really, really unique perspective on RAGBRAI, and I won't wax poetic too much because I think you probably will. So first of all, why don't we start with Powers and tell the listeners a little bit about your background and how did you come to work for RAGBRAI?
So I started working, I came to RAGBRAI through the Des Moines Register. So I was a photographer at the Des Moines Register from 2016 through 2021. Yeah. And one of the first things that they told me the first summer I was there was like, hey, we do this bike ride. We're going to need you to take some pictures of it. By the way, you're going to need to do it while riding your bike. And so I had no no experience with RAGBRAI before that. So it was kind of trial by fire. Went out there for the first week, and it was just blew me away. It was amazing. So every year, doing the ride, I was fortunate enough to do a few of the route inspection rides. And then once I left the newspaper in 21, I've been coming back. You guys have been gracious enough to ask me to come back, and honored to do it. I think this last one was the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being part of the social team it's just been so much fun.
And Brian, if you think back to when you worked at the Register, can you tell the listeners about maybe your favorite video you've ever recorded in maybe your entire life?
Well, if listeners are wondering how to pack for RAGBRAI, they can find.
I don't even know if I really knew you back then, but we had so much fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we went into the Des Moines Register, had a little video studio that we went into, and I think we started doing it because the prior packing video may have been done in like 1975.
Yeah.
Yep. It had been a significant amount of time. So it was we had a blast just going through it, and hopefully it's been helpful to some people who have stumbled across it.
I think last time I looked, it was over 25,000 views. So hopefully there are people that are benefiting from it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. The other thing we should say about Powers, your history at the Register, is that you were a part of the Just Go Bike podcast at the very beginning.
That's right.
Yeah. That was we wanted to start a podcast about bikes, and AP. I think it was you, me, and a few other folks, and you guys have far and away made it so much better and carried the torch so well and made it more than anything I think any of us could have imagined from the very, very beginning. So I had a very, very, very small role in putting it together way back when, but you guys have taken it and run with it and made it amazing. So
I wasn't fishing for a compliment there, but thank you very much. Your voice was at the end of the podcast for years and years and years after you even a part of the podcast anymore, because hey, if you say it right, you got to say it, like it just worked. So let's get a shout out to that. And thank you for producing the pod. And if I remember correctly, you and Kyle Munson showed me how to record a podcast where people call in. So I'm still using that knowledge today.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. So let's go on to Kim. I haven't asked you any questions yet. So tell listeners about your background and how did you come to work for RAGBRAI?
So I came about it a little bit differently. I'm in Colorado, and I worked at the Denver Post for over 20 plus years, and they had Ride the Rockies, and I did all the graphics and photo and video for them. And then obviously RAGBRAI bought the Denver Ride the Rockies, and so I continued to do my Ride the Rockies stuff. And then you guys liked what I did and invited me to come shoot photo and video for the 50th, which was amazing and overwhelming at the same time because it was like 10 times bigger than Ride the Rockies.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. And then since then, I've been coming every year. So I've got to shoot photo and video for 2 years. And it's been an amazing experience.
And tell the listeners your Iowa connection.
Oh, my Iowa connection, I went to Drake University for college in graphic design and advertising. So I basically was there for 4 years, and I know a lot about Iowa, so it's kind of fun connection.
Yeah, cool.
Go Bulldogs.
Yep.
Yeah. It was so fun working with you on Ride the Rockies, but that ride is completely different from RAGBRAI, even though the subject matter is the same. So it was fun to get to work with you in both contexts so far.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So Murph, why don't you, I think the listeners may know a little bit about your background and how you came to work for RAGBRAI, but I want to hear your answer too.
So I used to work for the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. Shout out to Mr. Mark Wyatt, who used to run it, and now Luke Hoffman runs it. So it's a fabulous organization that focuses on advocacy for cyclists and for drivers so that we can all kind of get along in the same space. So I worked there, and then a little bit here and there started to help out with the podcast. And then it kind of blossomed into, we need a female perspective. And so I started doing a lot of the interviews on the podcast, and then I started working with you, and then we started traveling together to various cycling events. And then I don't even know how it got to the point where I started doing photographs for you, but I'm not a professional photographer, so I'm more of the candid. Maybe it's because I love Instagram so much. I don't know. But I'm more of your average Joe taking photos on my iPhone and, just catching people in the act, which becomes the Instagram stories for RAGBRAI, which also, dare I say, hilarious. I mean, we have so much fun doing it.
Yes, I think you can dare to say that. One of my favorite things that happened on the ride this year in 2024 was when Brian Powers had to cover for Murph, and he had to do a Murph style Instagram. And I think he did pretty good. So
and that was when I actually learned that I had a style, which now that you've pointed it out, I do it all the time.
They are big. It was big shoes to fill, and maybe the most nervous I was.
Well, I'd be nervous to use your camera too, so I think it goes both ways.
Yeah. That was the day of luggage gate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had a luggage fiasco that kept me off the route for a few hours, but anyway,
it worked. We work as a team, so we got it going. But okay, and just real quick, I'll say I came to RAGBRAI since I was 12. I've ridden RAGBRAI. I came to work for RAGBRAI by answering an ad in the newspaper. And when I started, I did the merchandise and the social media. And then over time, it's morphed into an only social media job, and obviously the podcast as well. So listening to you guys introduce yourselves, I think I met both Murph and Powers in 2016 or thereabouts. So that was a big year for me. So
nice.
I know. I only wish I could have met Kim at that time too, but that's the way it goes. So Kim, let's start with you. What's your favorite way to capture RAGBRAI? Do you like to do the photo, video, drone, social? I know it's kind of like picking your favorite child, but I got to ask anyway.
So basically, I'm more focused on video.
Mm-hmm.
I like to capture the essence of what's going on. I do love photos because that's kind of like where I started. But I'm kind of like moving more into the video and being more catching the essence of every day at the ride. And also, I do the drone, but it's not like my super favorite thing because it is a little nerve-wracking to make sure you don't like wreck your drone. So that's always fun. But I also like to create like the social reels at the end of the day to kind of capture each day.
Yeah. And we always say that when the photos come in, even if they weren't labeled, I would be able to tell a Kim photo apart from a Powers photo. And maybe listeners, you've seen that as well in social media, but Kim is really good at like character and portraits and like also animals.
Oh, for sure. Animals.
Yeah. So, Brian, what's your favorite way to capture RAGBRAI?
Photo. I've done video and it's great, but Kim's so good at it and really getting in and getting people's emotions and stuff on the ride. And my background's in photography, so like between still photography and drones, it's so much fun to freeze those moments in time and try to just capture the ride for years to come.
Yeah. And the photos you take with the drone are also really cool.
Yeah, it's a greit tool. It offers a different perspective on the ride, and RAGBRAI going through, the Iowa countryside is the perfect medium for it. It's tricky to time when to put it up because it is more of a time investment because I am riding.
Yeah.
I can't just hop off my bike and take a few pictures and then hop back on and go. It's more of a time investment. So trying to time it to when I'm in the bubble of riders, the thickest part of riders going down the road can be kind of tricky, but the variation it lends to kind of on the ground photos that show you the emotion and the vibe on the ground to then seeing the scale of it from the air. The combination of the two is I think fantastic.
Yeah, I think so too. Murph, what's your favorite way to capture RAGBRAI?
To be honest, my favorite way to capture RAGBRAI is to look at Kim and Brian's photographs each day because it's like captures the emotion, the moments like so well. But with that said, if you're referring to how I personally do, like I mentioned before, I'm not a professional photographer, so I am capturing moments via my iPhone, which I absolutely love. I love to do still photographs. I also love to do little videos that I turn into reels. I'll wait for that for your next question when you talk about like a typical day for us, because I think it's interesting. So yeah, I'm going to hold that thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll say my favorite way to capture RAGBRAI, I really love doing social media type photos and videos, but over time I've grown to really love taking video that I can use in TikToks and Instagram Reels, because it's so fun to have something from July that I have stashed away and saved for a rainy day, and then I can use it in, say, January or February when it's the opposite of cycling season. Just kind of pull a trick out of my hat and be like, here you go. And if you've seen any of RAGBRAI's socials since the ride, that's stuff that I collected while I was out there on the ride. So that's my favorite way. All right, so go ahead.
I would also add, it's really fun to look at the content gathered at the end of each day or at the end of the week and see different variations on the same thing. You know, we all roll through the same towns. We all kind of see the same stuff on the road. But to see it from Murph's perspective or from Kim's perspective, it's just so fun to see how we all capture the ride differently. Yeah. And for the riders and for the people who either are on the ride or maybe their family at home, for them to really get a great perspective of what RAGBRAI is like from so many different vantage points. I think it's fun. I enjoy looking at it, so I'm hoping other people do too.
Yeah, that's so true. I wonder if I could find a picture that we all four took on the ride. I bet I could. I'm going to do some research, but don't hold me to it. I'm going to try though. So, all right. So that's one of my favorite things, is that at the end of the day, I can look at your social posts or your photos and videos that you've filed and kind of see what you've been up to throughout the day, because we don't always meet up during the day, or at least we don't plan to. And sometimes we do come across each other as a social team, or at the end of the day, Murph and I will be at the podcast booth, so Kim and Powers can come and say hi. But a lot of the times we're working independently. We're always as a team, but we're out doing our own thing because we're naturally apart. So let's go in a little bit deeper into what a day on RAGBRAI is like for you. So we all experience it from a different way, from the first thing in the morning to filing your photos at night. And I want to start with Murph this time.
Ooh, okay. So I'm sure listeners know this because I post enough pictures about it, but I'm one of only two that get to ride the route while I call it work. So I get up. I'm lucky enough to be able to stay in a hotel, not always in the town that we should be starting from. So anyway, so I am on my bike, which the only other person that does that is Brian Powers, who is also on this podcast. So it'll be fun to hear your perspective, Brian. But I do know that I am not up and at 'em as early as Brian. I don't know how he does it. Maybe it's because he has small children at home, so he's used to like not sleeping ever. But I hit the road a little bit later than Brian. But here's what's interesting about the day, right? In that there's some point in the day where I will run into AP, I will run into Kim, I will run into Brian. And the best part about it is I will see something unique that I want to take a photograph of, and I'll be taking a photo, and then I'll look over and I'll be like, oh, there's Kim taking a photo of the same thing. Or Brian, Yeah. For Brian, a lot of times it's on the route, you'll be behind a thing of hay, and you'll be taking a photo, and I'll be taking the same photo. So it's just so cool. But then, because on the RAGBRAI route, we don't always have phone service. So there are predetermined places where we are almost guaranteed to have some sort of internet service or Wi-Fi. And so a lot of times we'll all meet up there. But that's where I will upload whatever I've done in the morning onto Instagram, onto stories, and then try and do it again at the end of the night. But with AP, we are not only are we doing social media during the day, but we're also, we got to please our listeners. We are doing podcast stuff, and then we got to go see the bands.
Yeah.
So then we're doing that. And then eventually, once I find my bed and lay down, then I will, use the internet from the hotel and try and upload some more pictures. So that was probably a little bit long, but that's kind of a day in the life for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a big day. I mean, every day I feel like we pack 5 days worth of activity into. So, all right, let's see. Who should we go with next? Let's go with Powers.
So just like Kathy said, I'm the other person who is fortunate enough to get to ride RAGBRAI and call it work. It's my days usually start early. I'm usually my alarm's going off sometime around 5 o'clock. With those, especially the longer days. So Matt, if you're listening, the shorter days make my life a lot easier. But it's one because of timing. Like I just need the time on the road to stay ahead of people, to make sure I'm making the ride look as busy as it feels on the road. Because once you get back kind of the tail end of the ride, it just gets harder to look full and look like the RAGBRAI everybody imagines.
Yes.
But it's also to get out for sunrise and be in the right spot and find like the first spot I really want to stop and take some pictures at sunrise, because you think that only happens once a day, right? I want to make sure that I'm out, I have the location picked out, and if I have to stop a couple times ahead of that just to kind of see if this is the right place. I want to do all that before the sun is up. From there, I'm just riding through, taking pictures as they come. Kim and I oftentimes will kind of look at the route ahead of time and think, okay, what's going to be easiest to get to by car? What can I, as a rider, look to skip because Kim can get to it easier from the road? And what can she not have access to? So what do I need to make sure that I do stop and get? Are there key spots in each town? Are there spots along the route? Is there things that we need to cover that can only be seen from the road just because of accessibility by vehicle? So usually that takes up most of my morning, is just covering the towns up to that point. And at the meeting town, it's stopping to get an initial selection of pictures out back to whoever is posting that day, so they have some stuff to use on social media.
Yep.
And then once I have that initial drop done, I am throwing whatever food I can find in my face and getting back on the road. My diet consists of a lot of pie, a lot of sugar for that week. Whatever I can get my hands on that is quick and efficient, and I can get back on the road, because really the whole week for me is just trying to stay ahead of that wave of riders. And so then by the time I'm getting to the end town, again, Kim and I will have game planned on, okay, who's covering the end town as far as like RAGBRAI photos, and then who's going to cover the band that night, because we need photos of the check presentation and of the band. If we are lucky enough to stay in a hotel in the town, it's pretty easy to pop in there and get a few more photos out. Otherwise, shooting the band and then coming back after the concert, or like halfway through the concert, because we can usually only shoot the first few songs.
Yeah.
So then trying to get those photos downloaded and edited from the entire second half of the day. So at that point, it's editing photos and then sending them over to the rest of the team to get posted. So I think my days usually end anywhere from 11 o'clock on a shorter day to 1 o'clock on a longer day.
Yeah.
And then rinse and repeat.
Yep.
Well, and I wanted to point out, like to back up just a little bit here, Andrea AP is our fearless leader as far as the social media team goes, and you have a pretty specific list of things that you request, whether it's sponsor related photos or specifics of the band or specifics of each town. So we all have a pretty it's a pretty long list of things that we would like to capture throughout the day and the week.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying not to be too much of a taskmaster, but it helps to have a list ahead of time.
Oh, for sure.
What Powers was talking about with how he and Kim coordinate, and I'll let Kim talk a little bit more about that, but we coordinate a lot ahead of time. We talk a lot ahead of time about who will get what and what items we're going to each photograph and how, or take a video of, or who's going to do the drone. There's a lot of planning that we haven't even talked about. But the list of photo shots that I really want, it's not only sponsors, but it's also stuff that I'm going to use throughout the year. So I asked Kim and Powers to collect pictures of Halloween stuff that I have just been using a lot this last month, for example. So that's a little bit of what we want to represent, and also stuff like we want to make sure we have a picture of every town. Yeah. We don't want, like Powers said, the ride only happens once. So if we all pass by Albia and we never get a picture of Albia, we're going to feel pretty bad about that.
Right.
So if we coordinate ahead of time, we don't have to worry about that. So all right, Kim, let's hear it from your perspective, because for you, you're kind of, as we all are, a cross between maybe my role and Powers' role as far as how you access the ride and what you do every day.
We will be right back.
Stay cozy this fall with our LII Waffle Knit, in development for over a year by our merchandise team. This shirt is waffly good in design, comfort, and performance.
Made from soft and lightweight waffle knit fabric, this shirt can be used as a thermal base layer or your go-to casual shirt of the season.
This is the official Just Go Bike merchandise pick of the season.
Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough I get to drive a car. But similar to everybody, we coordinate what we need to take pictures of every day. And typically, I get to sleep in a little bit, so I get to eat, if we're in a hotel, breakfast, so I don't have to scrounge on the road. So I get up early, 6:30, but then I get to probably leave like around 7:30. And then I typically drive all the way to the meeting town first, and then I stay there for a few hours. Sometimes I'll meet Brian, sometimes not, depending on how many towns there are. And then I typically do all the afternoon, like later towns, by car, which is always an adventure because I have to figure out how to go on all the dirt roads. And so that's always, and so AP and I coordinate with that because you can't cross the route, obviously, so you have to kind of do zigzag and get all the way around to get to the spot. And every once in a while there'll be a town in the afternoon I can't get to, and then I'll be like texting Brian, you're going to have to stop and take the photo at this town. But depending on like the long or short days, whether he can do that, or it all depends on how many miles he gets to ride. So
I would love to see like a heat map of Kim and AP, like what you drive every day, because I'm guessing, you can't just parallel the route. You've got to go up and down and in the town and out of the town and find a highway.
Yeah, that's something we should do for next year, where we do a Strava of our drive.
I think it'd be kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, every once in a while we get lost, so that's always part of it. But then we get into town at the end of the ride, and then we decide who's doing the concert and who's doing the different things in the evening. And then sometimes I'm ahead of the ride, so I have to drive to the next town. So, and so it's tricky, but a lot of times Murph and I get to be roommates.
Yes, we do.
And then so then I spend the evening doing reels. I try to do 2 reels a day, and then upload my photos. So same thing up till midnight. Get up at 6 the next day. It always gets harder towards the end of the week. Lack of sleep.
I will say I only ever ask Kim to do 1 reel per day, and she always does 2. She's an overachiever, so I think the writers appreciate that. But I just wanted to throw that out there. That
they're so good, though. Thank you, Kim.
I know
they are.
They're always awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, so then I guess that's to me where like I said, I'm a cross of kind of Kim and Murph in my duties, plus a little bit more because I'm the band leader. I get up every day whenever my brain. Once RAGBRAI starts, my brain starts buzzing, and I can hardly fall asleep. And so I wake up I don't know, anytime in the early morning thinking about RAGBRAI and what should I be posting. And so I will then spend several hours in the hotel room in the morning posting pictures, making reels, doing content, receiving stuff that people have sent me from the crew, from the other crew, the wider crew, or scheduling sponsor posts, because a lot of times for our sponsors, we want to make sure that we're doing promotional posts that look like they're from RAGBRAI. So the social team will take pictures of things along the route of the sponsors, and then I'll schedule them during. I don't do them ahead of time, so if that makes sense. So then I'll, once it's finally time for checkout and I have to get kicked out of the hotel room, I will then hit the road. And I usually try to hit 1 to 2 towns per day, and then 1 to 2 places along the route itself, so that I can get a variety of content for my TikToks and stuff in the future, where there's actually bikers. And I usually miss the bubble because I need that internet time in the morning. But I can kind of finagle it enough or drive far enough ahead to get enough riders that it looks normal. That's kind of how my day starts. But like Kim says, we have to drive. Once we get to the main meat of the riders, we take like B roads, we're taking gravel, we're taking dirt. And Kim and I navigate with GPS, but also with old-fashioned atlases. So ahead of the ride, I've taken an atlas and highlighted the exact route and the vehicle route, and sort of made a little game plan about which do I want to go, north of the route or south of the route? Because you kind of have to pick one and then go with it the whole rest of the day, so that you're not crisscrossing the route the whole time. And this year, I will say, has been a huge adventure. I drove on a very muddy dirt road, and I drove on at least 2 bridges that were made out of wood. Oh, so it was really an adventure. I didn't get stuck this year, which is something that's happened in the past where I got stuck in a ditch, but so it was successful overall. And then, so I make my stops along the way. Usually I see 1 or 2 of you, or if I see Murph, she'll be like, oh, I just got a great picture of that water slide over there. And I'll be like, I just got a picture of that water slide. So like she said, there's a lot of duplication. One other place we commonly see each other is the Iowa Beer Bus, because we have friends there. And it's a great place to get pictures of riders enjoying themselves off the bike outside of a town. And especially for me, if it's not specifically in a town, then I can use it in the future, and it's not identifiable where they are exactly. They're just somewhere in the country. And that's what kind of background I want for my images. So anyway, we stop there. And then I head on into the expo, because Murph and I have a podcast booth every night. And I try to be the first one there. Usually Primal helps set it up, but then I'm like putting everything out, getting the podcast equipment set up, and purchasing drinks for the cyclists, or like whatever for when Murph and Brian come into the expo.
Chocolate milk for the win.
Yeah, chocolate milk for the win. If I could just have like a keg of chocolate milk.
Oh, gosh. And to have it be cold.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we just enjoy the expo. We get to talk to people. Sometimes I walk around and take pictures of that, or if there's anything cool. I mean, there's always cool things going on in the overnight town, but if there's something that I can access from by foot. Some years I bring a bike, some years I don't. This year I had one of Murph's bikes that I used just to kind of get around short distances. I think I rode less than 10 miles total probably, but I rode every day, at least a little bit, just kind of around town. And then, like Murph said, a lot of times we'll go to the concerts, because we'll have the professional photographers there, but we'll want social media style content of the different bands, because there's one, first of all, it's cool. But second of all, there's some bands that will happen year after year. For example, now I have a couple years worth of Pork Tornadoes footage that I can use when hopefully they get booked next year to promote the bands. So then the evening kind of winds down, and I usually have to travel ahead to get to my hotel room. Usually my hotel room is in the upcoming town. So I will drive ahead and try not to fall asleep while I'm driving and play really loud music. And then when I get to the hotel, I will do as much content as I can before I fall asleep from exhaustion. I say it like that, but it is actually super fun, and I love every minute of it. So it's a joy, and it's fun to get, see each other on the route, and like just to get to work together. And as we talk through this, there is one silent partner in our team that is not on this podcast today, and that is Ann Lowry, the director of the cycling division. And she did a lot of work this year to post all of our photos and videos and different things that we produced, and make sure that they went on in a timely fashion, because she had internet access a lot more reliably than the rest of us. So I want to give her a huge shout out. She also produced the podcast.
Yes, she did.
The Daily Ride podcast. And she had never produced a podcast before. So super cool that she was willing to do that and help us out on that. And she did a lot of work for us as well. So I wanted to give her a quick shout out. Okay, so we're going kind of long, but I'm only going to ask one more question. So we're all photographers, videographers. We all create content. I want to know, what was your favorite shot from RAGBRAI, either this year or in past years? And I'm going to start with Kim this time.
So it's always easier to pick other people's photos out of your favorites. So.
Yeah.
I had to think about this one, but I mean, obviously, I love taking pictures of people smiling and up close and personal. My favorite photos obviously include animals, if you haven't noticed. But my favorite photo from this past year was on day 3 in the evening, and this dad had a little toddler in a cart or a little bike seat on the back, and he's driving through, and it said "baby on board," and it was this cute little girl, I think, or boy, I'm not sure, but he was looking at, the baby was looking at me, and as I was taking pictures with his little sunglasses, and I was like following him, running down the street to get that perfect photo.
Oh,
so that was my favorite.
I love it. All right. Well, Powers, what was your favorite photo or video that you took on the ride?
Over the course of the years that I've covered it, it's hard to pick. One, I can't remember them all.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the last couple of years, the one from this year that's stuck in my head is there was a drone photo coming out of Atlantic that I pulled off and put the drone up, and there was a lot of haze on the ground. And so right as I put the drone up, I was like, oh, this is going to be cool.
Yeah.
And as I was flying around, trying to line up a shot and just kind of moving around, like the more I moved around, I was just adding more and more elements into it, and got it to where there was bikes on the bottom, there was haze in the rolling hills of that part of the state, and then there's windmills in the background. So that was probably one of my favorite ones, just kind of like beautiful, scenic RAGBRAI photos from this year. So yeah, that's the one that sticks into my mind.
My favorite photo of Brian's was this year too, and it was also a drone photo where there was bikes on the right and then the guy in the swimming pool on the side.
Yeah. So last year I did a drone photo looking down in one of the towns, and it was the right time of day, so you saw shadows of all the cyclists. You were looking top down on the cyclists down to the road, but so you couldn't really see the cyclists, but you saw their shadows. It was really fun, and something coming into this year, I'm like, well, I don't want to do the same thing again. How do I make it look different? And it just so happened that in this one town there was a swimming pool, so I thought, oh, this could be an interesting way to make it different. And it was a similar time of day, and so I put the drone up, and there's some RAGBRAI famous riders, the guys who usually ride in the American flag Speedos. They were lounging in the pool. It's like, oh, this is great.
It's so cool.
This is awesome.
Yeah, well, it turned out good. And your original Shadows photo won an award last year, or this year.
It did. Yeah. So now I left in journalism, daily newspapers. Now I work in higher ed at the University of Georgia at the Business College, and so there's an organization for university photographers, and in their annual contest, that photo it won an award in that contest. So that was pretty cool. It was cool to see Iowa and RAGBRAI represented in a higher ed nationwide contest.
It's so freaking cool. Well, and congratulations.
Yeah, it's an awesome photo.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, Murph, what was your favorite photo from this year or previous years?
I took a photo. I was talking to Matt Phippen, our ride director, and we parted ways, and I look back, and he was just standing watching the crowd of bikers go by. And so on the back right shoulder of his shirt was the RAGBRAI logo. So back right shoulder. And so I kind of was got the shot from behind him, so it's the back of his head, the back of his shoulder with the RAGBRAI logo, and then it kind of gets blurry as you see all these bikers in front of him.
Ooh.
So I personally love it. I don't even know if it's that memorable for other people, but man, I loved that.
Yeah.
Just that moment, because you could just kind of feel the energy and feel just how proud he was to be, part of it.
Yeah.
So.
And it always feels like a little bit, I don't know, like finding Waldo to find Matt on the ride, because he is a little incognito. He does wear about the same thing every day, but he doesn't look flashy, and he's not necessarily easy to pick out of a crowd. So it always feels a little bit lucky. Kim made a whole video for the team about times we saw Matt on the ride.
Yeah, I started stalking him all week, and he said he could start sensing me from the crowd.
Until he's being watched.
Can I add something to tell the riders?
Sure.
So I just wanted to get to know your photographers, because I love talking and meeting people, and then I start to know who you are. So every year I start picking you out and finding you and being able to take your picture again.
Yeah.
And then also, when you do your wave as you're going down the road, hold it up till it feels really awkward so we can get it in focus.
I love that.
Those are good tips.
Yeah. This isn't on our question list, but do any of you others have tips for riders that would be, helpful? I think mine is just act natural, and it's not that stressful. Like, if your picture doesn't turn out good, I'm not going to use it. So don't stress about that.
I love the tip of holding your pose, because what I usually do a series of photos of whatever the jersey is for the year, and so I'll ask people, "Can I take your photograph?" And then I've got to do a little adjustment here and focus, and sometimes by then the person's all like, "Yeah, thanks," and then they walk away, and I'm like, "Ah, crap, I missed it." So
yeah, for sure. Hold the pose slightly longer than you think you should.
Yeah.
And also be creative. If you have a funny thing you want a picture of, show us show us, and we can do that. So some of those are my favorite video clips to use in the reels, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, getting to know your photographer, a lot of times, if we actually know who you are, we'll send you your picture that we took of you on the ride.
For sure.
We don't necessarily hoard that stuff. If we take a cool picture of you, we want to share it with you, but we got to know who you are. So, yeah. I guess I didn't say what my favorite. Oh, go ahead, Powers.
My thing was going to be more before the ride. If you have an interesting story, let us know. If you're riding the ride if you have a reason or a motivation, or if you're overcoming something, or if you're riding it with somebody, if there's a special reason that you are out there, or that you're riding the ride, let us know. Reach out, because those are the things. Obviously, we can go out and cover a week of people riding a bike across the state, and it's going to be awesome and a ton of fun. But to see those special stories and who RAGBRAI Nation is and why they do it, that's what kind of makes the content so special for the long term.
Yeah, I love that point. And that's something that we've talked about trying to do more of for next year, is even more stories that highlight the riders and why they're out here, and the community members, and what RAGBRAI means to them. So we'd love to hear that kind of stuff.
AP, what's your favorite photo?
My favorite photo on the ride this year, well, I couldn't pick. I wasn't going to answer because I can't pick. I have two. My first favorite photo is when we were in Lovelia, and we were at the beer bus, and somebody asked me to take their group's photo. So I took the group photo, but the guy never gave me his phone, so I just had to take it with my phone, and then I didn't know who it was, so I just posted it on Facebook, and they got their photo, but so did another several thousand people also get their photo. But it turned out great, and it was just a really goofy way to interact with the riders. My second favorite photo is when we were in Atlantic, and we got to go to the Pork Tornadoes concert, and Murph and I just so happened to be able to go up in a scissor lift and take photos from up there during the concert. It was pretty freaking cool. However, they were all blurry because everybody on the scissor lift was dancing. So
actually, I wrote down that was my favorite shot, but I'd have to qualify it as blurry.
Yeah, blurry. So favorite memory of taking a photo, but not the best photo. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, team, for coming and talking and telling the riders all about a little bit about what our experience of RAGBRAI is like. We see it from a different angle, but yet we try to see it from the same angle as everyone else and share that with the world, which is such a cool privilege to have. And it's fun. It's always so much fun working with you guys, even if it's just chatting on a phone call like we're doing right now. It's always just a blast, and I feel super lucky to get to work with you guys as a team.
Well,
Yeah,
we
you
are
guys
all
the best.
we are all very lucky as well.
Yeah. So, well, I can't wait for 2025, and until then, keep taking pictures. I didn't write an exit speech for this.
I like that though.
Okay. All right, and until then, I'll Parrot Talk to you next time, and I'll squawk at you later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Bike podcast. Murph and AP will be back next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, email them at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. Until next time,
Just go bike.
theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.